Sitting somewhere.
Everybody showed up.
Dick, stand up. I'm going to have you lead us in the pledge.
Are we ready to begin?
Hello, everybody, and good night. Welcome to the November public meeting of the Worcester Tea Party. If I could have everyone upstanding, we will start our meeting, as is our habit, with the Pledge of Allegiance. We will be led in the pledge by my personal friend, Dick Magnus, who is a Boy Scout and an example to us all in that way.
Right, thank you very much. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dick. All the way from Hudson to visit us tonight. You know, the best part about being president of the Worcester Tea Party, aside from having the Koch brothers credit card and, you know...
Oh, they're buying?
Is of course that I get to open these meetings and I get to invite people who will be able to share things with us. I've invited Brad Marston with us. He's an expert in what helps people win elections. Now, we've seen just this week there's been a kerfluffle. A professor from MIT, an economist who worked on Obamacare, explained basically that because voters are stupid, Obama was able to win the election. Now, while I would agree that there was some mistake made and it allowed Mr. Obama to become our president, I would never think to consciously characterize the bulk of the American people as stupid. That is just something that riles against me in such a personal way that I can't really express it in terms without using those sentence enhancers that they tell me not to use in mixed company. So, I am going to tell you that Brad is here to tell us about megadata. He's going to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of campaigning, the things that we can do to change the results moving forward. I have behind me, I have the two signs that were on my lawn in front of my house. I have the sign for Matt Elder, a friend of mine who was running for state rep from the city of Marlborough, who unfortunately came up a little short. And I do have the sign for question one, which won, and we'll get to that in a moment. Brad, if I can have you come on up.
Hi, everybody. For people who don't know my background, got into basically online campaigning in 2007, working for the McCain campaign. Ran for state rep myself in 2010 in a somewhat difficult district for a Republican, Back Bay, Beacon Hill, West End, and 5 precincts in Cambridge. I came in second. But luckily, I did encourage the incumbent to spend $90,000 to beat me. I sent her an email when her final campaign finance report came out and said, you know, Marty, $50 would have done it. You know, once you Xeroxed your nomination papers, you were pretty much good. During that campaign, I was approached, for that campaign, sort of my campaign consigliere was a gentleman named John LaRosa. Both John and I have sort of business backgrounds. During that campaign, I was approached by state senate candidates, even a couple of congressional candidates as late as August, saying, you know, what should I do next? And I said, well, what does your campaign plan say? He said, do you think I need one? I said, that's when John and I realized that perhaps there would be a market for our services as political consultants, campaign consultants. We founded 4 Tier Strategies. And it's called 4-tier strategies because every successful campaign comes down to the 4 M's: message, momentum, manpower, and money. If you lack any one of those 3, your chances of not being a constituent increase dramatically, though Desiree and others proved that wrong on question 1, certainly when it comes to the money part. And as fortune would have it, we thought our first candidates were going to be state rep, state senate. We'll write your campaign plan for you, et cetera, et cetera. And we announced on Twitter that we were forming the company, and a woman who lived in Atlanta contacted John and I and said, we need to talk. And she happened to have the position of communications director for Herman Cain for president, which was our first client. We did all of his social media and online fundraising. I was at a Greater Boston Young Republicans, or College Republicans, meeting. There were 70 or 80 people, and I just said, show of hands, how many people followed Herman Cain online? And every hand went up. I said, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you were actually following me and John. And I will tell you, to this day, I remember the hesitation I felt when I was about to hit post, and I knew I was going to be talking to 475,000 people. So I was asked to talk really about, what worked, what didn't work. Given the shellacking, and that was their word for it, I would say, well, I likened it to the elderly woman who was pulled over on the turnpike, and trooper asked for license and registration, and she gives registration and firearms ID card instead. And the trooper said, well, do you have any guns in the car? And she said, yes, I've got a .38 in my purse, I've got a 9mm Glock in my glove compartment, and I've got a rifle in my trunk. And the trooper said, ma'am, what are you afraid of? She said, not a goddamned thing. So what didn't work? Not a goddamn thing. We lost one race nationally, which we thought we were going to lose, and that was governor of Pennsylvania. Here in the state, obviously, Charlie is our governor-elect, and we picked up 2 Senate seats, and so far, I believe 6 House seats, and there may be 2 or 3 that are still under recount. Nationally, we will end up with 54 senators. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Cassidy will beat Mary Landrieu in the runoff. House, highest number of Republicans since 1929. State houses, we control 69 of 99 state legislatures, state legislative bodies. We, in 31 states, we control both houses. So, yeah, it worked. And it wasn't just anger at Obama, especially when you're at your at the state house level. It was just a great article by Fred Barnes in the Weekly Standard today saying it was just finally people waking up and being fed up with liberal, democratic, progressive governing policies. This election came down to 4 things, and they weren't message, momentum, money, and muscle. They were dollars, data, discipline, and doors. As usual, the DNC, the DNSC and the DCCC outraised us by $35–40 million, but we marshaled our resources well. Beginning to mid of September, we were pretty much even with them on cash on hand. As usual, the RNC outraised the DNC, again by $35–40 million. What was important was, what did we spend the money on? I was at CPAC a couple of years ago, and there was a panel discussion saying, and the title, Should We Kill All the Consultants? I decided to go in case it came up for a vote, but it was about how do the Republican consultants face campaigns versus who is a Democratic consultant, said, you guys don't get it. We play to win. You guys play to get hired next cycle. And where do you spend your money? I mean, you know, presidential campaign, you're talking about $1 billion. Are you putting it into grassroots? Or are you putting it into television buys? And you put them into television buys. Why? Because the consultants get paid 15% of a television buy. They don't get paid 15% of 10,000 doors knocked. Well, this time the RNC decided to do it differently. They put $100 million since 2012 into online campaigning, data management, data acquisition, data modeling. The days of targeting voters is over. It's modeling voters. What do my current supporters look like? Now how do I go out and find people who look like that and then market my message in the most efficient way possible? The RNC made the decision. We've got super PACs now. Great. We'll let them go out and buy the ads. We're going to spend money on our campaign infrastructure. Quality of data was, I don't know how many people sort of interacted with Mass Victory out here. I happen to be the chairman of my ward in Boston. And so they had the 30-30-30-10 lists with the sort of 4 different types of groups of targeted voters. I personally made 650 phone calls to people on that list. Maybe I got 8 wrong numbers. Same thing when I went to the Mass Victory office in Boston, and doing the predictive dialing, which I kind of hate, because you can tell when somebody's calling on a predictive dialer, because you pick up the phone, you say hello, and there's about a second and a half of silence, and I've gotten very good at hanging up the phone in a second, 0.4. But again, the quality of the data was outstanding. I was not getting wrong numbers. On election day morning, I was out the door at 5:15. I hit 250 doors. We'd get out the vote literature drops, and of those 250, there were only 4 bad addresses. And 2 of them, the people still own the house. They're just doing gut rehabs, which people on Beacon Hill tend to do with surprising frequency. So it's, oh, and the thing was, I mentioned that to Brian Wilson, who is was the chief data guy at Mass Victory, and I mentioned how good the phone numbers were, and he said, yeah, it's funny. The Secretary of State doesn't really care if they have a good phone number for a voter. It's funny, credit card companies, yeah, they probably care about having a good phone number for somebody who owes them money, and that's where we got 99% of our phone numbers. We were consultants on a Attorney General race down in Rhode Island, and so we wanted to know. I mean, and Rhode Island is much like, actually, if you ever want to feel good about Massachusetts politics, spend a couple of days in Rhode Island, and we look awesome. I mean, the first meeting with their campaign manager, he had to have said, "You don't understand Rhode Island" 12 times. I mean, it was just, the guy we were running against, sitting attorney general, and is quote-unquote defending the state in a lawsuit from the unions on their past pension reform. Yeah, he has 3 state pensions. His wife has a state pension. Her brother will have her state pension after, because he inherited her job when she retired. Yeah, clearly going to be a strong advocate.
Rhode Island was where the Republican candidate for mayor of Providence endorsed the Democrat, so that
Buddy Cianci couldn't win. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that O'Brien, when he gets out of prison, could obviously move to Rhode Island and run for anything he wanted. But we hired a third-party data firm, so we knew exactly what. Oh, and the reason Rhode Island is very much like Massachusetts is 10% Republican, 35% Democrat, 55% Independent. So you have to know what your voters look like. A likely Republican voter, female, is going to be 65% more likely to have bought a Playtex bra in the last 12 months than a Democrat. Why? Because Republican conservative women skew older in Rhode Island. Somebody who owns a Lexus, and I can't remember the model, is 4.5 times more likely to vote Republican than the national average. Well, what does that tell me? It tells me what my voters look like. It tells me what websites they're visiting. It tells me where to deliver ads, etc. So the ability to acquire big data and analyze it is clearly, vital. Though I would say to people who, like Matt Elder, like the Tea Party, do yourself a favor, manage small data well before you try to worry about big data. We work on a platform called Nation Builder, and anytime somebody does something on the site, you can set it to follow up, and the campaign manager can open it up and go, okay, is my volunteer coordinator following up with the 12 people who signed up to volunteer in the last 24 hours, that kind of thing. Discipline. The NRSC and the NRCC made a concerted effort not to have the Todd Akins, Richard Murdochs, Christine O'Donnells, etc. of the world. I didn't really like the way they went after Chris McDaniels, but looking at some of the comments that he had made that had been reported, you knew the Democrats were going to use it against it. Thad Cochran was just a better candidate. And you got to remember, the job of those three organizations is to get Republicans elected. It's not to enforce or even endorse, political purity. Also, they were very disciplined on message. It was, in some cases, there were state issues. I think Cassidy Landrieu and XL Pipeline is probably a great example. But it was Obama, 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 and in case you forgot either of the first three, Obama, and it worked. Doors, just RNC alone, talked about 30,000 grassroots volunteers, 35 million phone calls, door knocks, huge increase in Republican early voting. A lot of people don't realize, or show of hands, know, how many people know that on Election Day 2012, Mitt Romney won? Okay. What Mitt Romney lost was the early vote. Actual votes cast on Election Day, Mitt Romney won. Probably three of the biggest surprises for me, as far as Massachusetts goes, was how close Baker Coakley was. I kind of figured 3-4%. I actually joked with, I do a fair amount of commentary, political commentary for Fox 25, and I ran into Sharman Zucchetti at Charlie Baker's headquarters and said, thanks for not having me on tonight, because that didn't have to say how wrong I was. I did have the opportunity the next night when talking to Maria Stefanos. I thought it would probably be at least 4 points. I don't think it was ever 9 points, but I was thinking 5 or 6 points. Give the Democrats their 1, 2, maybe 3% get out the vote edge, and you're still 3-4%. So having it come in at 1.7, 1.8, that was a surprise. Leah Cole winning was a big surprise for me. I mean, she had been elected only months ago in a three-way race with 30-something% of the vote. So the fact that she was able to put together a campaign and get 52% of the vote, I thought was huge. For the first time in decades, as I mentioned earlier, I'm chairman of my ward committee, we actually won Charlie actually won 3 of the 6 precincts in Back Bay, and 3 out of the 5 precincts on Beacon Hill. Citywide, he cut his margin of defeat by 19,000 votes, and there were numerous precincts where 10, 20-point swings between 2010 and 2014 aren't surprising. There were 30-point swings. I mean, where he lost by 18, 20 points in 2010, and he wins by 8 or 10 or 12 points. And, you know, I think it's going to be a long time before a Republican wins in Boston, but if we can get it to the point, and I think that's probably safe to say about Worcester as well, but if we're not having our statewide candidates start 100,000 votes behind between Worcester and Boston, that means there are, you know, a lot of areas to pick up. And again, I took a look at the 22 largest cities and towns in Massachusetts that Charlie lost in 2010. And the worst he did for 2014 was the same margin of loss. In the other 21, he picked up between 3% and 16% of the vote. Okay, so take away, and I'll tell you about what our ward is doing. Because I mean, I was ready to quit as ward chairman. I hadn't been all that active, and these latest results really kind of fired me up. Another thing that fired me up was in 2013, I worked for Dan Winslow in the primary, and I called the 1,500 registered Republicans, or the high propensity registered Republicans in Back Bay, Beacon Hill, or actually in all of Ward 5. And time after time after time, I got, oh, you know, God bless you, but there's no way a Republican can win in Massachusetts. Because this was just 4, 5, 6 months after Scott had lost to Hiawatha. I got none, when I was making those calls into the district, I was getting none of that negativism. I mean, people were excited, and that's both Republicans and unenrolled voters. So I think there has been a sea change. I mean, nothing breeds success like some success. But on December 7th and 8th, Beacon Hill, we've got the sort of gas lanterns on the poles. And every year we go out and decorate them with, I don't know what you call those things, but greens and red ribbons. And I'm going to have 10 people out there in red t-shirts with white lettering. On the front it says Ward 5 Republican Committee, and on the back it says, no, really. But what that's about is we've got to be visible, and we're in the community. And we're going to go back to monthly meetings, and we're going to send our meeting notices to the Back Bay Sun and the Beacon Hill Times, so people see that there is a Republican, Republican presence. Because it can't be just every 2 years. It can't be every 4 years. You've got to be reminding people that we're here. Because in the communities where Democrats do better, they already have a campaign infrastructure. It is called city and state government. Okay? So we have to counteract that with being visible, you know, being loud and proud. And that's really what it comes down to. So I would leave you with the parting words of wisdom, but I don't really have any. So I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to come out and talk.
Almost effortlessly. effortlessly. That fits into what I was going to say in the middle of our presentation. First off, I want everybody to notice that we have a t-shirt hanging up here. T-shirts are $15. T-shirts are really the sole income of the Worcester Tea Party. I have a trunk full of t-shirts, so if somebody needs to outfit, I don't know, a wiffle ball team perhaps, we have t-shirts for you. So, any size you want, $15. Trust me, the money doesn't go to my bar bill. It couldn't. There isn't enough of it. We have a few expenses. We have the email service. We now have a postal service. I want to mention that we now have a address if you want to mail things to us. So you can all write this down. Don't worry, you'll be getting it on hundreds of emails from now on. It's 1102 Pleasant Street, Unit 863. All these numbers were carefully chosen. They all mean something.
Maybe you should explain why we need a new address now.
This is because we no longer have access to the Liberty Clubhouse. Brad Wyatt has sold the Bradley Osgood building. This Friday, tomorrow night, there's going to be a goodbye to the Liberty Clubhouse party held at the Liberty Clubhouse, which is the 4th floor of 18 Grafton Street. All here are welcome to attend. Brad has done so much for so many, for so long, that he deserves our support in every possible endeavor, and we all wish him the brightest possible future. We have had a pretty good year in the Worcester Tea Party. We've been involved in a variety of programs. We are the World Wiffle Ball Champions, having not only defeated every other team that showed up, we also raised the most money for the Jimmy Fund with cancer, Jimmy Fund to fight cancer. We made inroads in pushback against the NDAA, reasonable and unreasonable abrogation of law. We brought it to the floor in Hudson. We brought it to fruition in Webster and in several other communities. We've done very well with that. But I think this year, I can take this because I'm the president. Remember, I'm the president. I think nothing has made me prouder than the time I spent working to tank the gas tax. Our members got signatures, our members held signs, our members voted, our members did everything that I feel was ever asked of them. And we did so in support of our dear friend Desiree. Desiree, please come up and take the mic.
Thank you, Matt. And thanks very much for having me. And the first thing I want to do is thank the volunteers. So many of you are in this room, and without you, the statewide campaign doesn't run. Without you, the machine in the field doesn't move. Without you, none of this happens. So first and foremost, I always want to express my appreciation and gratitude to all the volunteers who we've worked with for 15 months to bring Yes on One to victory. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. This idea of ballot question was originated by Holly Robichaud, political consultant, Boston Herald columnist. So she thought of this idea of doing a ballot question to stop automatic gas tax hikes. And this all started last summer. And she got a small group of people together. And State Rep Jeff Deal of Whitman has been an incredible point man and an incredible spokesman And you've seen him everywhere. He's been on the radio, on Howie, on Cooner. He's been out there at so many events. He's been doing debates. He's tremendous, done an incredible job. Holly, the originator and the foundation to being the originator and the founder and the strategist for all this media, also taking care of all the media, and she's been the PR genius behind it all, because we had no money for radio ads or TV ads. We had money for supplies that we needed in the field, lawn signs, literature. We held some fundraisers, banners. We put it really into the field operation. Steve Aylward was our chairman, and Steve has been an incredible nuts and bolts person behind the scenes, also working with our treasurer. Steve did an incredible amount of financing, working on fundraisers, and doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We also had Marty Lamb, who was another co-chair, who I have a great personal affection for, managed a few of his campaigns, was deputy manager for his congressional run in 2010, and manager for his state rep race in 2012. And Marty was a co-chair and part of that original group as well, did a tremendous job. And then when we found out from OCPF that we could not complain and call out Democrats who voted for the indexing, they said, you can't do that. So Marty had to separate himself, and he became chairman of the the gas tax PAC. It had to be separate. I had no communications with Marty. We could not coordinate, no communications at all. It's an OCPF violation, so we had to be completely separate. And he could issue press releases, he could make endorsements, he could raise money, so that's what was done to call out some of these Democrats who were voting for the indexing. And one of them was Danielle Gregoire, who was running against Matt Elmer.
Oh.
Yes. So this all started with the signature drive, as you know. We needed to collect a lot of signatures, and the way they figure this out is they look at 3% of all the votes cast for governor in 2010. They add up all the votes cast for Charlie and Deval Patrick and Tim Cahill, and then 3% of that was about 69,000 and some odd votes. So that's what we needed for certified signatures. So you need a lot more raw signatures because some town clerks are going to throw out certain signatures valid. They won't be legible. It may not be a registered voter. There were a number of issues. Also, the Secretary of State's office is very strict. A mark on a paper, a coffee stain, anything is a problem, and they can throw in a whole sheet. So you need a lot more signatures than 69,000. So I think we got about 125,000 signatures in round one. And so this was a huge statewide operation with a lot of coordinators, town coordinators. And what I had to do back then I was in charge of the Central Mass region, which was everything from Quabbin Reservoir to Natick, about 100-mile spread there. So at that time, as you know, because many of you got my emails, getting out there on the weekends and getting out there during the week as much as possible, supermarkets, dumps, all kinds of events, soccer fields, you name it, getting out there and collecting signatures where there were crowds. And then we did make ballot. We did make the ballot, and we went to the Secretary of State's office in early December. And we were all very happy about that. And then we started the campaign right away. We started doing voter registration drives and handing out literature, basically flyers at that time, explaining what the facts behind this tank, the automatic gas tax, and getting the word out, getting the message out. And we did the voter registration drive in the winter. Many of you were out there at the gas stations. We were able to get permission from some of the gas stations. Great place to do this. Pass out flyers and start getting the message out. And then we started doing parades right away in March. It was still very cold. We had a very long winter, but we were out there doing parades, and one of them was St. Patrick's Day out in Abington. So we started very early. You have to in this state. And another thing we did was we made sure we took the campaign to the cities. We didn't ignore that. The strategy was to make sure we did the banner hangs, like 3 or 4 banners in a row on a highway. It's very powerful when a driver sees 3 or 4 banners in a row on a highway on overpasses. So they don't have to be consecutive overpasses. So we did this on Route 3 South. We did it on I-290, and Chris Mader and Wayne, thank you, Wayne Campbell were 2 of the people who did it on I-290 in Worcester. Thank you very much, Chris and Wayne. And we did it on 495, a lot of traffic on 495 South and North 495 around the Mass Pike, from the area between Marlborough down to Hopkinton. A lot of heavy traffic with all those main junctions with Route 9 and I-290 and the Mass Pike. We did it also on the Southeast Expressway and Route 128, Burlington, Pocopoke, a lot of good bridge overpasses, and Route 1 North. So we didn't ignore Boston. We were there. We got out a lot of lawn signs, 3,000 lawn signs. We bought 1,500, then we bought another 1,500. I made sure we really had good coverage. That included a lot of towns inside 128. We were getting requests. We had a Google phone set up. We had the email set up. Another person I want to recognize who did a tremendous amount is Chris Pinto. He was Chris did an incredible amount of work with Facebook and with our Tank the Gas Tax website. Also fundraising. The donation button, all that was set up to the donor links, the Tank the Gas Tax email that we wanted to send out, he kept the list. So Chris did an incredible amount of work there on the social media side. Along with the banner hangs on 495, 290, we did them on Route 3 South, inside 128. All the lawn signs, we really needed a strong field operation. Lit drops, we had literature, 2 different kinds of literature. One had Beacon Hill on the front, the other one was Yes on One, and the facts on the back. And we were dropping those in parking lots, malls, supermarkets, everywhere we could to get to the voters. And some of you as well were handing that out as well. We really appreciate it. Also, there were the candidates out there, they were speaking about Yes on One all the time. This was a great issue for candidates to run on. Thank you, Jackie Costas. And her campaign manager, Jim Knowlton, and they did work, took lawn signs, they took literature, and all the candidates were doing that. The candidates were very, very much talking about Yes on One out there in the field.
Yes, in the District 13, we put our push cards, the tax on.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, it helped a lot. And I mean, I could not coordinate with candidates or candidate campaigns at all. I could not. I had to stay separate. So the candidates contacted Holly, and that was the route. I could not communicate with them at all, and I'm so used to doing that. So it's unusual because being a manager for a campaign, a candidate, I could talk to other campaigns and candidates all the time. This was very unusual. I couldn't do that. I couldn't coordinate at all with candidates or candidate campaigns. So there was literature, there was lawn signs, there was the banner hangs. There was Jeff Deal getting on the radio, taking advantage of as much free media as possible. Holly was sending out press releases. There were other releases from the Gas Tax PAC making endorsements on candidates as well. There were many primary candidates that were endorsed. There was a huge field operation, and it really resonated. We were, I think, the only ballot question I saw out there that had anything. I saw the bottle bill, the No on 2 had some good TV ads, but beyond that, there wasn't much. We were the only ones really out there in the field. So that was a big operation statewide. And like I said, we did not ignore the cities. Yes on One had 55% of the vote here in Worcester. So that was very good. And all those towns in and around 128, many of them, they were in the 40s. Medford, for example, we all know who lives in Medford. Martha Coakley lives in Medford. Made sure there were a lot of lawn signs there. I wanted to remind her that the gas tax was not 10 cents. So we had, there were a lot of coordinators who were helping us get the lawn signs planted. There were a lot of standouts being done. That was one of the things we had to do because the visibility was very much important. Yes on One, yes on One, we had to get that done because I also want to recognize someone else, Mike Sullivan. I was deputy campaign manager for Mike's Senate race. Mike was our attorney, helped us with the language, and Mike helped us with the language in the beginning to get us through the Attorney General. So Mike was our attorney for the Yes on One group. So I want to thank Mike Sullivan very much. In addition to we had to do a second signature drive because what the legislature can do is there's three options. They can either put you on the ballot because you were certified, or they can make you law right away, or they can ignore you. So they picked option 3, ignore us. So we had to do another signature drive. It wasn't as many. We needed 11,000 certified signatures. So we ended up getting about 24,000 raw, but it was harder, in my opinion, and I was doing the statewide signature drive at that point, because I was managing the statewide campaign. It was harder, because there's certain limits per county that signatures, certain number of signatures, and you max out, and then they won't count. So, as many of you know, I was asking people, once we maxed out in Central Mass, in Worcester County and Middlesex, we were getting in the car and driving an hour and a half, going down the Cape, going out Western Mass, farm people out to collect signatures in Franklin County and Hampden and Barnstable. It was important because we needed signatures in other locations. We needed to make sure we could get the 11,000 certified. And like I said, we needed at least double. So it was about, I think we got 24,000 raw and ended up being 19,000 certified, so it was fine. But that was actually harder. To me, it was harder to do the second time around. Also, no duplicates. If a voter signed the first time around, the first signature drive in the fall of 2013, it didn't count. And some of them remembered, some of them didn't. We never asked, get the signatures, just get them. The town clerks had the records, and they were going to check everything, and they were going to cross them out. So we had that up against us as well. So to me, the second signature drive was more difficult. Yeah.
What was your budget compared to your opponents?
We had about $100,000 raised.
How much did they spend?
$3 million.
And
AAA.
Among those was AAA. Do we have an alternative to AAA?
Well, yeah, there are a number of other clubs I think that people looked at. The unions were against us, AAA was against us, Chamber of Commerce was against us. Yeah, they spent about $3 million. We also, those AAA ads, about 9 times an hour. Every time I turned around, I saw it.
Actually, this is a question for Brad, because this is a completely different type. This is a ground campaign versus the online. Is there anything that they could have done that might have made it more effective using the data-driven stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get back to the Attorney General race, and part of the reason we ended up firing him is we did very detailed analysis of where we felt our voters were, and we were pounding, for $7,500, we got 11 million impressions of online ads, including probably 3 million 15, 30-second pre-roll, because we just knew he wasn't going to have enough money to break through with television ads, and then He ran one of the videos we made as a television ad, and 3 friends called him, and his mom, she liked how much they liked the TV ad, so we pulled his entire online advertising budget and way through on TV.
They had very little budget, so they couldn't really.
Right, but for $7,500, $10,000, if you geo-target ads, you can get, 10, 12 million impressions. So
We had Facebook, and we had the website, and we did do social media, and there were press releases, and we had the Google phone, and one thing about Howie and Cooner, it was terrific. We had Jeff Deal on regularly, constantly, and what he did was he kept talking about the website, go here, we need your help, please donate, please sign up and be a volunteer. And this happened a great deal. We constantly had people emailing the website, calling. I was getting all that forwarded to me, and I created a very large spreadsheet of all the volunteers and where the lawn signs were and everything. So this increased the Army incredibly. In fact, in last fall, it was such a huge outpouring last fall that in the town halls, the town clerks had people waiting in line. There was 30,000, maybe another 30,000 signatures probably came just from these, your average Joe voter who came with a petition sheet, who downloaded it from our website and had him and his wife sign it, and then go to the town clerk and hand it in. There were a lot of onesie-twosies being turned in, and that was incredible power with talk radio and telling people where to go to the website, go to the Facebook page, volunteer, sign up. We had a volunteer, sign up on and what you'd like to do to help, all different kinds of options. So that was tremendous power. So we did do a lot of that. There was a lot of social media. Like I said, Chris Pinto was a wizard behind that. We did have the website, the Facebook, Google phone, volunteer sign up, donate buttons. A lot of this happened, and Steve Ilwood and Jeff Deal, and especially Jeff, getting on radio and talking about this all the time, and Howie and Cooner talking about it, and the articles that were written, a lot of free media. It was a tremendous outpouring, and that was a huge part of it.
I also want to thank you for making the union spend 30 times what you spent, because that's money that didn't go elsewhere.
Like I said, it was a team effort, a great committee. We had a great together, all of us together, Holly, Jeff, Marty, Steve, Chris Pinto. It was a great committee, nice good core group, and a lot of wonderful town coordinators, terrific people all across the state, and regional coordinators too. Just tremendous job everybody did, and all the volunteers. And it was amazing how many more volunteers signed up. It just grew dramatically, and including the second signature drive as well. We just got even more. Then during the campaign, especially in the summer when things heated up even more, constantly more volunteers being added. It was tremendous. So it was, like I said, the power is with the volunteers, the power is with all of you, and without that, the field operation doesn't happen.
Well, you saw that organic growth, because I remember in October, November, when I first signed on to this thing in 2013, I used to have to explain to people, well, what is this guest tax? What is it? I had to quickly get my little speech together. But by the following year, when we were doing it again, by that time, you're absolutely correct. They had gotten on the website, they'd gotten educated, they'd seen it on Channel 5, they'd seen it on the web. And by then they were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign. And it was just so much easier.
Yeah, that was the thing. We had to start early and just keep pounding it in, making sure people could see it, see us, hear it on the radio, get some literature, see the signs, see the banners, and we could see the momentum building, because I heard it from the volunteers who were doing the banner hangs. People on the highway were flashing their lights, hanging out the window, waving, beeping the horns. I mean, it just grew and grew, and you could just see the response grow as well, and we could see it building. So the Yes on One did win 53-47, so it was 6 points. And like I said, the cities did quite well. Worcester was 55. A lot of areas. Like I said, we did not ignore these areas. We did not ignore the cities. you have to go there and you have to pull from the Democrats as much as you can. And I think there were a lot of Democrats who signed our petition too. So there were a lot of people, a lot of Democrats who live out there in rural areas who drive 20 minutes for a loaf of bread, and they don't like the gas tax either.
I ran into Jeff at Charlie's headquarters, and he turns to me tonight.
Yes.
And he turns to me and he said, "You know, we got more votes than Charlie. Maybe I should talk first tonight."
Yeah. So I think yes, someone helped candidates. I think it helped them. It certainly gave people something united to run on. The Democrats do that a lot. So there was a popular issue. It did cut across party affiliations. Like I said, we did have a lot of Democrats signing, and it's amazing how many. So we saw that when we noticed who was signing, when we get that information from the town clerk. So it was a very good popular issue, a tremendous group of volunteers statewide. As I often say again and again and again, I always want to thank the volunteers and very grateful for all the help of the volunteers in the statewide field operation. It's without you, it would not have happened, would not have run out there, and the field operation was very important. And we had a tremendous committee and team effort, and a lot of talent, a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work done by all. So it was very successful. We're all thrilled and very happy Son won, to see Yes on One win, and kind of put Beacon Hill on notice that they can't just shirk their responsibilities and run and hide, that they have to vote. If they want to raise taxes, they have to do it out in the open. They have to vote and they have to explain it. So again, I want to thank Matt and the Worcester Tea Party for having me, and I really appreciate being here, and I want to thank you all.
All right, so now I'm going to give you my closing remarks, and I have a few things that I want to say that I think that we need to kind of focus on. Like I said when I introduced Desiree, we've done a fair amount of things this year. We've had some victories and we've had some not victories, and I'm sure that we're all heartbroken over several of the not victories. We are coming up to the next presidential election. The next presidential election, 2016, started about a week ago. We are already into it. People like Elizabeth on the radio this afternoon when I was driving here, talking about how they're out there fighting for the middle class, and the middle class is getting hammered. When they're the ones holding the hammer, putting our heads against the anvil and pounding on us. They're the people who are driving opportunity away from our young folk and burdening them with excessive debt. These are the people who are feckless in the world, who are causing wars because of allowing us to grow weak and allowing us not to stand up for our core principles that our forefathers came from all over the face of this earth here to enjoy. Peace, prosperity, justice, and liberty under law are universal truths that no matter where you come from, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you pray to God, these are universal truths that every man, woman, and child can appreciate. These are things that shall not perish from this earth, but they require that we struggle for them. They require that we get up and do what needs to be done. Here at the Worcester Tea Party, I am proud of what we have done in this last year. I am proud of our members who have stepped up to the challenge, who have put themselves forth for running for candidates, who have tirelessly worked as journalists, for citizen journalists, not as paid consultants and propagandists for the party line. I put forth to you Mr. John Weston, who is a hero, frankly, for what he does at Right Overnight. I put forward that every man, woman in this room has carried that burden, who has moved this ball down the field to the victory that we all seek to achieve. And that as your president, I promise that we will achieve that victory, and we will be doing new and exciting things in the year to come. We will have a meeting at this same location, the 18th of December. We will confirm with our main guest that Chris Mader has been able to invite, but once we have his confirmation, we will be sending you reminders. And we will use that as a Christmas party. As I told you, Brad has sold his building, and we will no longer be able to use the Liberty Clubhouse for our annual yearly Christmas party. But we will have it here. We will have it here at the Canal. We will be looking for other opportunities and looking for other things to do. We are considering having meetings in the open, in the out of doors, in honor of Thoreau, who is a founding pillar of our organization in a lot of ways. What he said in civil discourse and civil disobedience is things that we need to bring home today at this time. You know, Mr. Emerson, it's not that I'm here in jail, it's why are you out there? So I leave you with these thoughts. I thank you for your attendance. I thank you for your patience with us. And I'm going to ask one last thing. Now that we have a mailing address, I'm going to be sending mail to our friends and to our competitors. And one of the things I'm going to first send out as your president is a Christmas card. Now, I don't know if everybody else does this or if everybody else sends out Christmas cards, but in the O'Brien family, we all get together, we stand around the hearth, we take a photograph, normally sometime in July, so it looks kind of weird with us standing there sweating profusely in our winter sweaters. And then we mail this to everybody so that everybody can see what we look like. You know, I would request, and Chris Mader is going to help us with this, if we could all gather by the flag and have our biggest, brightest, bestest smile so that we can send a record of us to all the people who need to know who we are. Please, come forward.
Come on, don't be shy.
Yeah, that'd be good. I got a camera too, because I thought it'd be nice to have a good group photo.
I don't know if we want to, because I think this is all taped. I think we just stand in front of it. Okay.
Pull this table forward a little bit. This one's
I want to show you some. Boy, you're pretty well almost resembled. Close. That was 55 years ago.
Come on down, don't be shy. Everybody turn around. Oh, I like this. Oh, okay.
All right, come on over here with the old man here.
Let's make room for one of these young, good-looking men in the front here.
Exactly. We've got to